right, here we have our boardroom breakdown part 2. Again, check out part 1 if you haven't already watched that. That would be a better place to start to ask these questions. This is just another nice, more specific visual, or maybe a quicker way to check in with yourself, with your coach. You'll see how all this comes together. Just a nice reference, and I just call it the ABCDE Continuum. I've kind of brought this up. It's kind of like the level 2 version, or the refined version. I'm always, I get to run things through these filters as well too, as a coach and as an athlete myself. So give you a few examples of each of these areas and how all this ties together. Starting with the A, it doesn't necessarily have to start and end. Again, as a continuum, as a flow, this is always these ways you'll see again how this comes together and checks in with all this stuff. But we'll start with the awareness. So the awareness, just like in that first questionnaire, what are the awareness of the constraints of life, awareness of the issues, awareness of something we want to get better at? Are we even aware that there is a weak link in our training? Those kind of questions to come back and reflect, have some introspection. And I'll even start by putting this centerpiece here to fill in some of the gaps. Let's see. You'll see how all this filters in. Awareness, well, check in with your coach here and start with that. Do we have some awareness of things that we can, weak links that we can improve on? Do we even realize that we have a hip dysfunction? Hopefully, if we can catch something going on before our injury, check engine light kind of comes on where we have some soreness, some injury, chronic type of stuff, for example. Do we have a certain readiness in here? And then the second one closely tied into this is that belief. Do we believe that we can make that improvement? Again, my example of a hip injury issues, and the coach, this could also be your physical therapist, your team, and very minimum, like I talk about this a lot, is your buddy, your super friend who's on the same page as you, as motivated, as connected to all this stuff as you are. Otherwise, that person's probably going to drag you down. That person who's not, especially when we get to this consistency with your dynamics of how you're checking in, how you're holding each other accountable, all those things too. But that belief is, hey, can I make the change? Do I have, start with that awareness. Do I have that belief that I can make that change? Or give you a little example as we're talking through this, as more from a Highland Games perspective, off season, this is the time of year that we're really getting into that. But this can be applied. I've been running this filter myself in all areas of life, and it's easy enough to remember that too, to just go check in quick. I would write this up though, anytime, any place. And the idea that this is a process improvement, a continuous process improvements, potentially not necessarily on the minute, but on the week for sure. You should really be looking into all these areas each week to make sure we're hitting, again, this awareness, belief, consistency, and direction. Again, explain the rest of these. That belief, for my wife, for example, perfect place to give you that is she's looking into a powerlifting meet, considering doing a powerlifting meet in the off season. Does that fit? Do we have awareness of what needs to be done, the constraints that are going on in her life? Did she check with her coach? Did the coach give her the green light? And yes, we did. For example, there specifically, yes, she's got enough of those things going on. She's had some low back stuff going on, doing enough. She can manage those 3 lifts without pain. She's coming off of her true deep off season, her post-season, we like to call it. So we've reflected on these things. She's built up some of those weak links. She's seeing her chiropractor. We're working very closely. We're working with another specific powerlifting coach. So she has that exact, again, we're working in the direction to go with some of the programming and just understanding the lifts, for example. So she's checking in there. And that belief in herself, we're looking at what are some goals, some record, it's fun to look back. Okay, what is the record for this? What are my current PRs? Do I even know? We've done some things. We've done some awareness by pre-testing, seeing where her current levels are for her current strength levels, and again, what she's done in the past. That makes it a lot easier to have belief when you're like, for example, she's deadlifted 300 pounds at a lower body weight, closer to say 115 body weight or so. We know that that's touchable. The state record, for example, is I believe it's like 360 or so. So well within her range, awareness, belief. And now we can talk a little bit about more the consistency in general. That is such a huge, it's a cool word. People think they know maybe what consistency really is. And I'll get into how this relates to that direction too. And this flows back this way too. Again, how all this comes and goes, the coach, the awareness, and you'll see this other big theme or where the E comes in. These are other areas, of course, too, but I just call it effective effort. It just kind of fits in with the E in there too, or that entirety of the whole continuum, the circle. This is that centerpiece of it, or the center of the target. Whoops. Did we get the result? This is the, if you think about effective effort towards the result. Here's the target. Again, if we don't know that, and kind of this touches on direction, if I have a target here, this relates for me in more of the shooting and archery world, but it's a nice application, I think, for this as well. If I'm consistently, these are my arrows or my bullet shots here, that's nice and consistent grouping, but it's consistently doing that work in the wrong, I'm not putting that direction. I may not have awareness of, well, where is the center of the target? How can I know I got my belief up? I'm doing great here, but I'm not really hitting the bullseye to make it effective effort. And again, that comes back to checking in with the coach, or that at least that team. Do I have a team around me? It's like the Morgan Wallen song, I Had Some Help. It's a trendy, fun song, but it's real. He's admitting or sharing in a fun way. He had some help along the way, right? I had some help. So that's just such a key centerpiece. Again, I want to be here, or at least agree from the coach to the athlete. Is this our center target, or is that changing? Consistency also to me means consistency that our belief is still there and our awareness, like we're not going to chase, again, for my wife example, we're not going to chase a powerlifting meet and then after 2 months, now I want to do a Highland Games in between there, and this grip lifting looks fun, or too much of a body recomposition or something like that. If we change and add too many variables, extremes would be like running a marathon 1 week and then you're doing a powerlifting meet the next week. People have done that. It's cool stuff, but we're kind of half-assing two things. I'd rather completely whole-ass one thing, meaning push it aside, consider how important that is. Does it feed into it? Does our powerlifting meet feed into her Highland Games goals, for example, into the season? Yes and no in some sense. It's going to get her base level of strength, her muscles, really strong, her foundation for the season in a sense, but then we're going to have potentially some other weak links, some stiffness to deal with, some more potential for some hot zones with her low back and things like that. So back to kind of that awareness, but that consistency, see, is just so big, and that's on a micro level too of diet, of course. Consistency is huge with the recovery, sleep, all those brown, roots, the bottom of the thing, the iceberg below the water kind of stuff that you don't see there. And simply, are we consistently, and usually a motivated athlete is going to already be there. That belief and that effort is already there. There's no problem putting in the work. If anything, it might be bringing things down, doing the dirty work, doing the off-season work, the things that we don't necessarily want to do for example, or my wife, getting things tuned up and starting to slowly build up those lifts, sticking to the program, all that is consistency too. Or do we need to make a shift? Is there awareness, hey, this is not working, or my belief in the program, belief in the coach? That's where those weekly checkpoints come in, and it's a nice place to land. Again, that direction here. Are we, in a sense, is the goal, are we keeping the goal kind of attitude too? Is that still the direction we want to go? Yes, I'm aware of that, what that might look like. Is that, again, if she flares up her low back or something in this example, we may have to change directions and say, this is no longer the target, now we have a new target, and we're hitting in here with some new goals. We get to make a shift, make a change, rather than just beating our head. Don't have, again, back in, hey, check in coach here. What does coach say to do? Well, the direction gets to change, needs to change, because it's not safe. We don't have that awareness, or the safety bubble there doesn't fit into this effective effort towards that greater goal. And for example, in her case, it's to ultimately more important for her to throw farther. If that changes and powerlifting just lights her up or something else, then we can consider that shift. And the timeline, that's part of that belief in the direction, and even that effective effort towards how long is it going to take to get there, for examples. Again, this could apply to just about anything, so I hope this resonates there. And I think with all ages and ability levels too. Again, check in with this compared to those questions. Some people might resonate, might get more out of asking those 7 basic questions on that list too, but this all can fit in there too. Where does that fit along that, again, that ultimate effective effort, or bringing all that into that entirety of making this work, or making sure we're not too far spun off over here, or way off in these other directions, wandering, winding, and just chasing something. That's also something that often happens to this certain franticness, something impulsive. You see the new shiny thing on social media, or someone puts an idea in your head, and again, whatever, instead of powerlifting meet, I want to do a figure competition or something completely different, a marathon, something just crazy out there. They don't play nice together, they don't fit. We're way off. That effective effort is in a different category, or if we're trying to, again, half-ass all those things too. Specifically with our off season, we want to really make sure we're honing in on those pieces, taking time to make this effective plan, being very mindful, slow, steady approach, working on our characteristics, our general preparedness. We're gonna do another video on that in the next little series too, really talking about that post-season, off-season stuff, because it's a great topic. I think a lot of athletes, specifically in the Highland Games and any area, to not really know what to do. It's like an off time. People go way off and don't really tune up the weaker links and get their head in a good place to do those challenging things, like more aerobic conditioning, body recomposition. If you're going into the off season at 300 pounds, we're coming into December here, what's going to happen over the holidays, that holiday drift time, and your goal, or your body weight, your body is much better off, your health effects, whatever, is better at 280. Well, what's going to happen if we don't address that, if that doesn't become important, or a couple different main targets that play nicely together? Hey, I can do a body recomposition, I can work on my mobility, I can work on my weaker links, and I can start to get a little bit more of this athleticism, or all these different tools that I talk about, really armoring up or crash proofing, working on these odd angle athletic things that we've either never really touched on or developed, or things that would benefit from a tune-up. And obviously the tune-up's a lot easier than developing something that's not there, but anything from different body weight training, mobility things, conditioning, doing more of those sides of things. So anyways, I hope this helps you guys have a place. I would take a picture of that, have that in your weekly checkpoint log stuff, make that part of your priority in your training, in your weekly higher level, this zone of genius, where we could call it. This is not just this stuff we just occasionally randomly do. Consistently do the work to keep refining and checking in with this, being aware, having the belief, consistency, direction, and that's going to have much more effective effort and some nice timeline to this too, rather than, oh yeah, I'm doing this general direction, I'm going towards this goal, I might do a powerlifting meet at some time. Put it on the calendar, specific programming, decide, make that activation of everything to make it happen. So hope that makes sense. Let me know if you guys have questions on this. Feel free to comment, share, and help us to continue to utilize these tools and give you some things that are very effective for you to have these continuums, these checkpoints, filters, if you want to call it that too. So hope that helps, guys.